That's a good question. It really differs. When you are working amongst the top 10 national house builders and the like, there is a lot of awareness. And the biggest challenge there is actually creating awareness with the development teams and the people with the responsibility to actually deliver the works on site and the tax team. And what we find we often have to do is bridge that gap. The biggest challenge to brownfield development is greenfield development. You know, the ease at which and the pressure to build on greenfield sites is massive. And I think the rush to greenfield is completely understandable, but that is unfortunately massively to the cost of brownfield. In many ways, I would almost like to see an almost like Section 106 type of obligation on greenfield to say that actually for every 10 acres or hectares of greenfield site you develop, you have to go and build and develop sites off the brownfield register.
What we're seeing is that the actual feasibility and the viability of getting these sites through planning is the biggest obstacle. Certainly our clients come to us and say, you know, how much is it going to cost to get the viability done? Time is money, you know, and at the end of the day, if we're able to save 43% on site time, then that equates down into the significant financial savings as well. So it's almost like for like. If you can save 50% on site time, you can save 50% of your costs as well.
Well, obviously, permissions in principle and the applicant route is a national scale way of de-risking sites. But our research focusing on London has obviously looked at and thrown up some interesting conflicts over it. I mean, the bottom line, I think that what our research has led to is that in London or maybe other particular and urban areas, that you build at a density that's not, you know, seen elsewhere around the country. So reviewing this legislation maybe in light of a sliding scale relative to local conditions or local contexts could help enable it to become more effective.
So we are a multidisciplinary practice. We have a large housing sector, currently doing Greenwich Millennium Village 3, for example, which has been an ongoing project. And what we now believe we can bring with the mapping technology that we've developed, we can look at data sets all across the capital and overlay them and find what a community really needs. So when we're looking and identifying sites with developers, on top of, I should say, the housing need, we can add layers of, is there an ageing population in that area? Are community facilities required? Do they need access to healthcare? And really inform what additional added value items we can bring to a site.
We are able to look at the issues around contamination and assess what is not necessarily, you know, the optimal environmental solution, but to look at the project in the round and say, how is this going to work with our requirement to achieve sustainable urban drainage systems? How is it going to work with the layout of the site, the levels on the site, and to come up with a solution which works with the grain of the project overall, so that we cost effectively manage the remedial works in the context of that particular project and its specific outcomes. Clearly people think there is a risk there, but with all risks they can be managed in an appropriate way. If you're going to cross the road, you generally look left and right before you do that. If you're going to buy a site, then you need to get an appropriately qualified consultant to undertake the due diligence on that site, so that you've got an idea of what it is you're buying and how you're going to approach the issues on that site from the start.